Right now, stock index futures in the U.S. are down slightly. If Scotland were to pull away from England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, what would society look like? What would its economy look like? The Scottish National Party today issued a kind of mission statement to start answering those questions. In 10 months' time, voters in Scotland will be asked, yes or no, should Scotland be an independent country? The BBC's Andrew Walker has been looking at the economic context for this. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, David.
So give me a sense of the blueprint being offered here about Scotland's future.
Some of the big challenges they would undoubtedly face would be economic, and one of the big issues they'd have to decide is which currency to use. What the Scottish National Party is saying they would do is have a currency union with the rest of the United Kingdom. And as we know from the Eurozone, running a currency union with more than one government involved can sometimes be pretty challenging.
As Scottish people engage this debate over possible independence and their future, how is the economy in Scotland as distinct from the rest of the United Kingdom?
The obvious big difference is that oil and gas production accounts for a much larger share of the Scottish economy. And that's actually one of the underlying themes often in Scottish national politics, has been the idea that the British government in London is taking what they would regard as Scottish oil and gas revenues. And because of the oil and gas, Scottish income per person is actually slightly higher than the rest of the UK. The rest of the Scottish economy in some ways is quite like the rest of England. There's a small but still significant manufacturing share, and services, in particular financial services, are very important. So there are some similarities. The big difference is oil and gas.
The BBC's Andrew Walker in London. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, David.
Would you lend your car to someone, maybe your twin sister, but what about a stranger? A new company is betting that just as people increasingly rent their houses on Airbnb, they may also be willing to hand over the car keys. KPCC's Ben Bergman has the story.
The co-founders of Flightcar look like college freshmen, and that's because they would be if they hadn't decided to start this company. Kevin Petrovich is 19.
I would have gone to Princeton.
Rajul Zapardi is 18.
I would have gone to Harvard.
Instead, they decided to take on the $11 billion airport car rental industry. That's even though they're too young to rent a car themselves. They've opened locations in San Francisco, Boston, and L.A.
At any given moment in time, there's something like 360,000 cars just sitting there in long-term parking lots at the top 30 airports in the United States. That's just very inefficient.
So Flightcar will pay you if someone rents your car up to $20 a day. They pick you up in a black sedan and throw in a car wash. And most importantly, they offer all the peace of mind $1 million policy can buy.
Everything is insured up to $1 million. We'll cover liability, we cover any collision, theft, damage. So even if there's a small scratch on the car, anything like that, it's fully covered.
So who's actually brave enough to loan their car to a complete stranger? I mean, we all know how people treat rental cars, right? It tends to be those in their late 20s or early 30s, but not everyone is so youthful. Walt French is a 65-year-old San Francisco portfolio manager who just got a $111 check for renting out his Acura.
To me, the great value on this is that prior to learning about Flightcar, I was parking at the airport at about $15 to $18 a day.
French is hooked. So is Joe Rosenberg, who rents his BMW twice a month.
I mean, there's obviously little things like the mirrors or the seat might be in a different spot, but that's no different than if you were to, valet park your car somewhere.
But other customers have shared horror stories online about finding decomposing fried chicken wings stuffed in the side door pocket or not getting reimbursed when their car got in an accident. Investors don't seem to be scared away, though. Flightcar has raised around $6 million, getting funding from celebrities Ashton Kutcher and Ryan Seacrest. In Los Angeles, I'm Ben Bergman for Marketplace.
And setting the record straight on turkey making you sleepy, a food science professor at Colorado State wants us to stop singling out tryptophan, an amino acid in turkey that normally gets the blame for the postprandial lethargy, food coma, if you're new to public radio. The professor says it's all the carbohydrates, plus the tryptophan, plus staying up late at night, plus the alcohol, plus the overeating that makes you sleepy. There's also listening to Uncle Frankie's retrograde politics throughout the meal. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
Taco Bell. Oh, Taco Bell, Taco Bell. Product placement with Taco Bell. Injarito, macho burrito.
Master Tang, what are you doing here?
I've come to kick ass.
That was Alice. She wanted me to come over and make some fudge with her.
Oh, that's a nice headlock, sir.
It's Miller time!
Headaches for millions of travelers.
It's been pretty terrible. It's all been ice and snow.
Supreme Court considers new cases
that challenge the health care reform law on religious grounds.
School massacre report.
None of the information answers the question, why?
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. The weather outside is frightful for millions of Thanksgiving holiday travelers from the nation's midsection to the East Coast. Snow and ice snarled Interstate 75 in Kentucky.
You couldn't hardly see. It was kind of blinding.
Nasty. I hate it.
The storm system that was deadly in the southwest now rolling through the Ozarks and to the East Coast. There have been flight cancellations and delays.
They canceled it and rescheduled me to Chicago and then to Boston.
CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg.
If you're on a flight that's delayed or, in fact, canceled, there are no other options because the next flight's already fully booked.
Right.
We're dealing with more people vying for fewer seats anyway, even in great weather.
Forecaster Eric Fisher is plotting the storm system's path.
By this evening, it's on the move across Virginia and up toward D.C., so Reagan and Dulles, a couple hubs will have to watch for later flights. And then into tomorrow morning, that heaviest rain shifts to New York City and up toward Boston and Hartford, and that's where we would expect some delays in the wind and then the snow on the backside, places like Buffalo and over towards Syracuse.
Now to Washington, where Obamacare has dominated the headlines for the past 2 months. Now CBS's Barry Bagnano tells us they'll be talking about it at the U.S. Supreme Court.
The latest big legal challenge to President Obama's health care reform law is religion-based. The justices at their conference today will decide whether to take one or more cases testing whether the constitutional right to free religious expression is violated by the Obamacare birth control coverage requirement. In one of the most closely watched challenges, Hobby Lobby, a company run by a Christian family, says it should not be forced to provide emergency contraception that it considers a form of abortion.
This is a core teaching of large and mainstream religious groups, and it's part of the president's principal domestic policy initiative, so we got very high stakes.
University of Virginia law professor Douglas Laycock. A key question here is, do companies have the same religious rights as individuals? Barry Bagnetto, CBS News, Washington.
Correspondent Cheryl Atkinson has more on how small businesses have been trying to deal with the new health insurance landscape.
New Hampshire small business owner Nancy Clark was featured last year in a White House video blog.
The health care law is about people like me. It's Nancy Care.
But things haven't gone quite according to plan for Nancy Care. Last month, her insurer said it was hiking rates 39% starting next year.
I didn't take it seriously because I have the opportunity to go on healthcare.gov.
But there's been one problem after another.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Virginia Beach business owner Betsy Atkinson is also canceling company insurance because her plan doesn't meet new Obamacare requirements, and she can't afford to offer employees one that does.
They're going to have to go find their own insurance. I'm sorry.
In 2010, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services estimated Obamacare would collectively reduce the number of people with employer-sponsored health coverage by about 14 million.
And plenty of troubling questions remain after the release of a Connecticut report on the Newtown school massacre last December. WCBS Radio's Marla Diamond says what does emerge is a portrait of a young gunman who was troubled, and his mother was worried but took no apparent action.
A month before the shooting, she says she was concerned about him, that he hadn't gone anywhere for 3 months and would only communicate with her via email. While the report releases no motive, it says Adam Lanza may have hinted at his deadly plans online. Authorities say a Texas woman contacted Hartford police the day of the December 14th shootings to say her son had interacted with someone while playing a video game 20 hours earlier who said there would be a school shooting. This same person posted comments online saying that they plan to commit suicide December 14th and that it would make national news.
Investigators say they may never uncover a motive. Afghanistan's President Karzai says he won't back down from his decision not to sign a new security deal with the United States. National Security Advisor Susan Rice says if that holds, the U.S. will start planning to pull all forces out after next year.
If the agreement isn't signed promptly, we would have no choice to have to begin to plan for the prospect that we will not be able to keep our troops here.
And Karzai is set to leave office next April. President Obama was in friendly territory, San Francisco, for a speech on immigration when a selected member of the audience on stage with him rose up.
Most importantly, we will live up to our character as a nation.
Ju Hong, the man's name, he called on the president to use executive order to stop deportations of undocumented immigrants. Mr. Obama, who told security to leave the man alone, said he has to obey existing laws and can't change them on his own. 10 former National Hockey League players have filed a class action lawsuit claiming not enough's been done to protect players from concussions. Over the summer, the NFL agreed to pay $765 million to settle a similar case brought by former football players. Well, new questions are being raised about the morning after emergency contraceptive pill. We're live with CBS's Vicki Barker.
The makers of a French morning after pill say tests show its key ingredient, levonorgestrel, isn't fully effective in women who weigh more than 165 pounds and is ineffective in women who weigh more than 176 pounds. Levonorgestrel is also the key ingredient in a number of U.S. morning after pills, including Plan B One Step and My Way. Steve?
A statuette of the Maltese Falcon seen in the 1941 movie of the same name sold at auction yesterday for just over $4 million. Up for auction today, the first book written and published in America. The Bay Psalm book was put together by Puritans who came here seeking religious freedom.
The Bay Psalm book is an extremely valuable book. The estimate going into the auction is $15 million to $30 million.
David Redden at Sotheby's says Boston's Old South Church has held on to the book for the past 300 years. Well, a man being called a lifesaver and an angel insists he's no hero. 61-year-old Donnie Navidad says his military instincts kicked in on Sunday when he moved in to break the fall of a woman jumping from the upper deck at the Oakland Raiders stadium.
Being in the Marine Corps, we're trained to just react. No questions asked, you just react.
And he reacted to break her fall. Navidad's nursing bruises now at home. The woman is still in critical condition after the 45-foot plunge. Spouses of couch potatoes, take note. Raking leaves may be good exercise, but watching TV sports is a pretty good workout, too. CBS's Jim Shenevy explains.
You can't get much exercise watching TV, or can you? It may depend on what you're watching. Australian scientists found that people who watch sports on TV burn more energy in the process, even if they're just sitting there. When people were shown a video of someone running, their heart rates increased and their respiration rates increased as well. They believe it's because of what's known as muscle sympathetic nerve activity. Your body actually gears up for exercise as you watch exercise. They did caution, however, that simply watching sports on TV is no replacement for the real thing. Jim Shenevy, CBS News.
A New York City holiday tradition won't happen this year. The annual Sidewalk Santa Parade the day after Thanksgiving to raise money for a food program has been scrapped. Organizers say there are more efficient ways to raise money. That's the Roundup. I'm Steve Kathan, CBS News.
Good night, and good luck.
If you are disabled and you're no longer able to work, you should learn about the Social Security Disability Insurance Program. If you qualify, you can receive a monthly disability benefit from Social Security for as long as your disability keeps you from working. The amount of your benefit is based on your average lifetime earnings. After a period of time, you may also qualify for medical coverage. If you have a disability that makes you unable to work, visit www.socialsecurity.gov/disability.
This episode of First Cup is brought to you by Wishing Stars Native Creations, Fine Art Today, and Marshall Woodworking. Check out these companies and many more by going to the Friends page at tinyurl.com/Gunther's House or tinyurl.com/GuntherMobile.
It seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV.
But where are those good old-fashioned values on which we used to rely?
Lucky there's a family guy. Lucky there's a man who positively can do all the things that make us
laugh and cry.
He's our family guy.
Welcome back to Studio 27. You're listening to First Cup. Yours truly, Joe Hafner, here at the controls, and it's time for News of the Weird. A Minneapolis doctor says her parents